Currently, I'm in Turkey, in Istanbul, but I'm trying not to disclose this location too much. I left Russia almost a year ago. I left because of fear of persecution for me, for my ex-company, and for people surrounding that exact opposition group. But since then, a lot of things got worse. In 2014, the Ukraine had a revolution, Maidan, and the Russia seized Crimea. That's the rise of Russian propaganda. When the revolution in Ukraine happened and took place, all of the state media were saying how terrible it is and how Ukraine will die right now. And every time in the country there was some kind of power shift, a significant power shift, they tried to convince everyone that this is the worst thing that can happen because they are afraid that something would happen. Last year, 2021, I'd say a new era has begun. They start to close almost everything that they can. Like, we already had a huge propaganda, but we also had a few liberal media with the free news, independent from the government, and they adopted a new law. And with that law, they could say that any media they didn't like is actually working for some foreign country or wherever. They didn't really care for the reason. And they would either close and ban their website or, take people from that media to prison because they're doing some illegal job in their opinion. If you're writing about the war, they can consider your information fake and you may go to prison.
Я думаю, что, друзья, мы должны на этом закончить. Конец сегодняшнего эфира и пауза небольшая, которую делает телеканал «Дождь».
Но пасаран.
Но пасаран.
И нет войне.
Точно нет войны.
Since the war started, many fled Russia. Many people I know, because they understood that Russia is going to the dark times and to the direction they are not supporting, and that they might get some kind of prison time in the future, possibly with the new laws. If you are against Putin and against the war and say it out loud on your Facebook page or Instagram, Telegram, anywhere, Twitter, you can get up to 15 years of prison time. And they also banned Facebook, they banned Instagram, they may ban YouTube or something else in the future. The Russian internet is becoming also more closed territory with more and more control from the Russian government. I talk to my friends in Russia, in Moscow, ask them what do you feel right now in the war? Everyone just saying apathy, you cannot do anything. And if you go to the street, you'll be arrested. You can go to prison for several years. You put a post on your Instagram against the war, you can go to prison. Those people who are brave enough to go on these rallies, they cannot do anything. They're afraid that they will go to prison. And now, since the new laws are adapted about the war, it's even dangerous just to go outside alone with a paper saying that I'm for peace or I'm against war, because this can be considered spreading misinformation about Russian special military operation in Ukraine. Everyone who can go to the rally, they're aware of this situation and they're afraid of the situation. I cannot stress enough how dangerous it is in Russia to be against Putin. Putin is a dictator. A lot of people who are against Putin, against his regime, they're trying to leave, they're trying to escape now to any place they can, just to be sure to be safe with their families. Tens of thousands of people who are left, and mostly those are younger generations, younger people. They're not activists, they're just afraid for their lives, for their families.
Majority right now in the way with Putin, but they don't understand what's going on, and we have in Russia extremely strong propaganda.
Please do not associate us, Russians, with this war. We never wanted it, and we never voted for this government. I feel ashamed.
The economy is going down. Everyone who earns for their living in Russian currency, they became significantly poorer than they were before. Men, for example, they don't know, maybe in a few months, they would have to go to the war against their will. You never know what can happen in Russia. The war in Ukraine basically broke a lot of things. Like, many people now dislike Russians because they believe they're responsible for what happened. However, my personal experience show that many people doesn't support that. And the image that the Putin is trying to present on the state TV and the news media is like everyone supports what's going on, but that's very far from true. I'd say one of the biggest problems right now is misinformation and just how hard it is to actually find this kind of information. The propaganda is very strong and it's very well funded by the government.
И когда вы грозите России очередными санкциями, в задницу себе их засуньте, трубочкой сверните в задницу и знайте, Путин вам сказал, инфраструктуру НАТО на границе 97-го года, ядерное оружие в те страны, которым оно принадлежит. И если вы считаете, что мы остановимся на Украине, подумайте 300 раз. Напомню вам, что Украина – это всего лишь промежуточный этап в обеспечении стратегической безопасности Российской Федерации.
Receiving an independent view on the current events in Russia is dangerous and it's hard. Most of the people in Russia are either misinformed or they're not following the news properly. The average salaries in Russia are very low, like way lower than in Europe or United States. And people in Russia from that class, they're very worried about how to provide for their families, how to feed themselves, and they don't really have time for thinking about the world politics and what's going on and like trying to find alternative sources apart from the state TV. And I believe this is one of the major reasons why a huge portion of Russians are misinformed. I love Moscow. I love living in Moscow. I lived there my whole life and I would love to continue living there, but it was too dangerous for me. You find yourself sitting somewhere abroad, not being able to return, as well as your family members are not being able to return. And it just a very weird feeling, you know, like you had to be exiled from your own motherland because some corrupt politicians decided that they want to stay in power for longer, or they want to build their houses even bigger, or just steal more money than they had before. This is honestly an awkward feeling.